Hello. Good morning. To some, good afternoon, I suppose. It's Tuesday, 2 days before Thanksgiving for many people who are celebrating Thanksgiving this week. And I'm sure that there don't need to be. So I don't want to talk about something that perhaps is an issue for some people. So if you are in recovery from an eating disorder and you're like pumped and excited for Thanksgiving and seeing family and having yummy food and just being around, loved ones, I think that's awesome and wonderful. And I'm so happy that you've done the work to get to that place where you are indeed excited. If you are in a place where you are feeling mixed emotions, like excited and yeah, I'm going to challenge things are going to be different this year, but also apprehensive or worried, focus on the positive. Focus on the good things that are going to come if you show up to these holidays um, as yourself. Just you. Leave your eating disorder behind. Leave it home. Leave it wherever you need to, but show up with you just being you. I think that if you can do that, obviously easier said than done, even if you're not in a super solid place in recovery right now, it can give you the momentum you need to keep going. If you can have a positive experience in the holiday season, at least just one, maybe two, a positive experience in the holiday season, it can help you to kind of draw on that. It can help you to be like, wow, that was awesome. I loved that I could just go and eat this delicious Thanksgiving feast. Yes, I felt some anxiety and guilt, but I did it. I haven't done that in years, like relish in that and be proud of yourself. So if you're thinking, I don't know how I'm going to do that, well, you still have a couple days, cram. No, but really, you can visualize yourself going there and just doing it. Just go through the motions. Let it be an out of body experience. Load up that plate, eat the whole thing, go back and get more. Really just push yourself way outside your comfort zone and see what happens, right? Something that I wanted to talk about quickly, and if anyone has questions, you can start asking them, and I'll get to them in just a second. But something that I wanted to address was, what do you do? And I've had some clients who are struggling with motivation. They started in recovery and they, were doing well, but had never fully committed all the way. And we're aware of that. I'm so sorry, Hazel. Her personality is coming out. She is a feisty little baby. I'm excited to see what she does in her life because she is tenacious. So she's trying to get something to work and it's not working. Anyway, so if you're lacking motivation, what do you do when you're lacking motivation? What do you do when it's like you need to recover, you're slipping backwards, but yet you can't seem to get yourself back on track? So you've started recovery, you did well, you started kind of getting scared or losing focus, something tripped you up, and you dwelled on or overthought about it too much, and now you feel like you're stuck. You feel like, crap, how did I get myself into that headspace to even decide I wanted to recover? Because right now it's like I'm starting to contemplate the idea of, even if this is a good idea, like maybe my eating disorder actually wasn't that bad. Maybe I could live with it. Maybe if I just switch a few things, if I don't have to go to the gym every single day, maybe if, I just keep eating, at least 3 meals every day, I have more energy and it's nice because it doesn't look so obvious that I'm struggling. Maybe, if I just make sure that I'm eating different foods every day, and they start kind of like negotiating with the eating disorder and trying to convince themselves that they're actually okay and it's really not that bad, because the alternative of going for it and really, really, really trying to recover is too scary for them. So if you're in that place and you're really lacking motivation, and the things that I'm saying in this video are going in one ear and out the other, and it's kind of like, yeah, maybe in another lifetime, or maybe in a few months, or maybe something's going to click tomorrow or the next day, one morning I'll wake up and these things are going to make sense and I'm going to do it. You might be waiting for a really, really, really long time. So if you're struggling to be like, okay, yeah, that is me, how do I actually take what you're saying in these videos and apply them? Well, I want you to look back on your worst days with your eating disorder. I want you, and I know this is like a hard exercise to have to do mentally and emotionally, but I think sometimes it's so easy for us to romanticize our eating disorder and forget how crappy it is, right? Especially when someone's looking at their older, sick body. It's like all of a sudden, oh man, ooh, yeah, maybe I could it wasn't that bad, and they start trying to justify why their eating disorder wasn't actually ruining their life, or in fact, maybe just making them unhappy or less happy than they could be. Um, and so try to go there, go to those dark places and remember the things that you had to sacrifice and the things that you missed out on and just the general feeling of like you're missing out on life. And then even if you're not feeling really motivated, I've done videos on motivation. It comes and it goes and it comes and it goes, and it's not a reliable source to keep you going in recovery. If you have it, great, that's awesome, right? It's so nice to have all that motivation and dive in and be pumped and excited and all that stuff. But if you don't have that, it's kind of a luxury. If you don't have that, then you kind of almost have to do some things to get yourself motivated. For me, that would have been going to those dark places, going to those memories of me missing my kids' school plays or soccer games or whatnot because I was in the gym. Those arguments that I'd have with my husband and that would get so heated because he would bring up, how he was worried about me. Heaven forbid, he was worried about me because I was struggling with my eating disorder, and I would just start screaming and be so defensive and awful. Those were horrible memories. I hated that, right? And so when I started feeling complacent or just like wanting to give up or not even start, that's kind of where I had to go. So if anyone has any questions, I feel like I've been rambling on long enough. This may be my last video before next week because I'll be out of town. We're leaving tomorrow to head to Texas, as I mentioned before, and I'll be back Saturday night. So may not do a video again until next week. My Christmas problem is that for weeks I plan to challenge myself by eating unrestricted all holiday food. I plan to challenge myself to but when the eve comes, I barely can eat my normal amount. I just get stuck. So yeah, Nelly, that's exactly what, everyone kind of strategizes and thinks is going to be a really good plan. But tell me how many times you've planned that and it hasn't quite panned out like you thought it was going to in regards to a holiday coming up or an event coming up and being like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to let myself eat everything that I want on these holidays. I'm really going to go for it. I'm going to let myself. Leading up to it, I'm not going to do anything different, because maybe you're in still that mindset of I'm going to restrict leading up to it, which we know restriction leads to restriction. But also if you're in that mindset of like, oh, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing and then I'm really going to, really going to go for it on the holidays. I'm really going to challenge myself. Well, you're still taking all those same fears and everything with you. And if you're determined and you're committed, you're absolutely going to do that, then I have no doubt that you can do that. But if you're under that umbrella of thinking, yeah, somehow things are going to feel easier on the holidays and I'm going to be able to eat all this stuff without any fear and anxiety and guilt, it's not just going to go away like that overnight. You can change your actions overnight and go there and go through all the motions like I was talking about earlier, but you're still going to probably feel that guilt and that anxiety and some overthinking, like you asked, is this just overthinking? So hopefully I'm answering this question. I understood the question right. Yeah, when the eve comes, you can barely eat your normal amount because you're still dealing with your eating disorder. You're still very much heavily influenced by the emotions that come from the thoughts of, this is different food. This might be too much. How am I going to make up for this? Have I prepared properly? Have I restricted enough to be able to deserve this? Like the eating disorder is going to take it and just kind of try to, if you let it, make it an awful experience for you. So what you need to do is this very second, you still have some time, this very second, I can guarantee your holiday will be different if you do this. This very second, you go for it. So you wake up and you have a huge breakfast and huge lunch and huge dinner and snacks all in between, and you eat tons the night before this holiday, before Thanksgiving or Christmas Eve. You eat tons and tons, and then you wake up and you keep going and you keep going, keep going, keep going. But trying to be careful entering into like a challenge or something coming up, some kind of event, never works. You've got to be really, really aggressive. So that's something that, we talk about with event restriction, where people will think that they're saving up or working out extra hard or being super careful or orthorexic or whatever it is, feeling like that will let them enjoy the holiday more. And I can't see any of you, but raise your hand if you've ever tried that and it hasn't worked, right? It doesn't work. Are there any other questions coming up? If not, I'm going to wrap it up. It's been 10 minutes and I feel like all of my lives are always like 20 plus minutes, and I cannot believe it. I feel like time never goes faster than when I'm doing a live video. It's insane. So if not, I'm going to wrap it up, and I hope that everyone has really, really, really great holiday. Thank you so much. I have to start to train eating lots of good food before Christmas. Exactly. Exactly, exactly, exactly. And don't think if you're listening to this, it's too late. Oh, well, depending on where you are, it's in one day, it's in 2 days. How am I ever going to have time? Trust me, like really honestly, trust me, things will feel different in your head. Even if you go into this event with the day prior just being so aggressive and so bold. So, Victoria, you have a question. Looks like you're typing it. Um, Let's see, I'm just waiting for that. Thank you for all of your videos. They're so helpful. Safe travels. Thank you. I'm actually a little bit nervous to travel with Hazel. This will be Hazel's first time on a plane, and we're leaving and taking off right during her nap time. So this should be interesting. Wish us luck. Actually, pray for us because I do not want to be that person on a plane whose baby is like crying and everyone's staring at you like, do something about your baby. And you're like, I'm crying. We flew to Hawaii when my twins were one. And that's probably why I feel scarred about flying with kids. It was awful. Okay. I have been under enormous stress and it makes me so ill. I'm so scared of going backwards with recovery, though this is when I have felt so good about it lately. With recovery through this, when I have felt so good about it lately. I think what you're saying is you're going through a ton of stress right now. It's making you feel sick, probably physically ill, right? And you're so scared to go backwards with recovery. Well, it's good that you're aware of that. The last 2 days have been awful. I'm doing my best, drinking stuff with calories, eating cake for breakfast, etc. I just want to keep strong in recovery while feeling so sick and in turmoil. Well, good for you. That's exactly that right there is someone showing themselves and me and everyone around them that they are committed to recovery, right? If you recognize, oh my gosh, I'm in recovery here and I'm going through a ton of stress. And I know my normal reaction to stress is what? I feel physically ill, right? For me, I'd feel a pit in my stomach when I felt really stressed or under any kind of turmoil. And so when I wasn't in recovery, what did I do? I just didn't eat, right? I just didn't even feel like I was intentionally restricting. I just didn't eat because that was my normal reaction to stress. When you're in recovery, you recognize that that's your normal reaction to stress and you have to change it, right? Anything that you do just kind of naturally when you're in recovery that your eating disorder has become or has created to be just kind of a knee-jerk reaction, you have to recognize and be like, hold on, I can't do that. I'm in recovery. That's not an appropriate response to stress anymore. Even though I feel sick in my stomach, you're doing exactly what you need to be doing. You're drinking, things with calories. You're eating cake for breakfast. You're trying to just get stuff in, even if it doesn't taste amazing, even if you feel sick, because there isn't another option. You don't have the luxury of being like, oh, I'm so stressed and hopefully this passes and next week I can get back on track. It's not going to work. You have to treat food, in this case, like medicine. You have to treat it like if you were, feeling lousy one day and you're like, I don't really feel like taking that medicine. It tastes gross. I don't want it. No, I'm not going to. Well, you're just going to get sicker, right? You've got to take the medicine to get feeling better. It's going to be the same thing in recovery. Yeah, it's probably not going to taste great and it's not going to be super enjoyable. But if you choose not to eat because you're stressed, you're only going to get worse. If you eat through it, eventually the stress will, subside and you'll move past it. You won't have fallen backwards in recovery. If anything, you will push yourself even further because you rewired that reaction that you naturally have to restrict when you feel stressed. So look at this as an opportunity to be like, oh, I can really, really, really excel my recovery here and get really strong because I have this thing in front of me that's freaking me out and stressing me out. And I'm going to eat despite it. I'm going to learn how to eat even when I'm stressed. So good for you for doing what you're doing so far. Don't let yourself revert backwards. Recognize that this is your tendency and it looks like you're taking action. You're planning ahead of time. This cannot happen. I will eat regardless of how I feel. Okay. So hopefully that was a clear enough answer for you. Have a great trip. Yes. Thank you so much. Very excited. Okay. Everybody have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Thanksgiving or rest of your week if you're not celebrating Thanksgiving. And if you have any other questions, thank you. I keep doing my best. It feels so wrong to eat when I feel revolted by it. I'm thankful to hear your encouragement and that I'm doing the right thing. You absolutely are doing the right thing. And sometimes, actually, oftentimes in recovery, when it feels right, you're probably doing it wrong. And when it feels wrong, you're probably doing things right. Correct? When it feels too easy, when it feels like, ooh, warm and cozy inside, oops, it's, well, Hazel just turned on ACDC. Um, I'm so sorry. Hold on. I can't even figure out how she turned it on. There we go. Okay. Um, I'm so sorry that most of you are probably not finding this amusing. Um, But when you're doing something that feels too easy, you're not changing anything. You're not doing anything to propel you forward in your recovery. When you're doing things that feel really wrong and you've had a dozen donuts after you just had 7 sandwiches and you're crawling out of your skin and you feel like you've messed up and you've done it wrong and you're going crazy, that's when you know you're changing. Like there you go. You're doing something right. Even though it feels so wrong, you're doing something right. So, yes, Hazel does have good taste in music, right? All right, I'm going to end it on that note. Have a wonderful rest of your day and talk to you guys in just a little bit. All right, bye.